Today we're diving into a hidden principle that's working, well, everywhere, at every single scale of reality, from the very edge of the universe, all the way down to the core of your own identity. It's a pattern that connects, believe it or not, everything. It kind of sounds like the start of some cosmic riddle, doesn't it? A black hole, a living cell, and that feeling of I. I mean, on the surface, they seem to have absolutely nothing in common. But what if I told you they are all just different expressions of one single fundamental pattern that's woven right into the fabric of existence?
The answer is something we're going to call the principle of one. And it's basically this: a relentless, unstoppable drive in nature to create a center, and then to draw a boundary around it. It's the universe's way of creating an inside versus an outside, a self against an other. It's this universal drama of coming together and then setting apart.
All right, so to really get our heads around this, we're going to go on a little journey across different scales. And we're starting big, the biggest, most dramatic stage you can imagine, the cosmos itself. You really couldn't ask for a better example than a black hole. It is the ultimate center, a point of almost infinite density. But the thing that truly makes it a one is its boundary, the event horizon. That's a line of no return. It absolutely, completely separates the black hole from the rest of the universe.
And what's wild is that this principle doesn't just operate at one size. We see these incredible centers of gravity on completely different scales. You've got your relatively small stellar black holes, born from dying stars, all the way up to the supermassive giants like Sagittarius A star, the gravitational anchor that our entire Milky Way galaxy is spinning around.
This obsession with a central point, it's even there at the very, very beginning of time. The classic Big Bang theory, right? It all starts from an infinitely dense singularity. But even some of the newer ideas, like the quantum bounce theory, they still revolve around a central point of maximum compression, a pivot point in an endless cycle. So either way you look at it, our universe just erupts from a single defining one. Okay, now let's zoom way in from that cosmic scale to something you can almost touch, the physical world. And here, we're going to see that order doesn't just happen. It literally has to fight to exist.
Just picture a crystal forming in a liquid. It's not this gentle, peaceful process. No, it's a thermodynamic battle. A single point of order, what we call a nucleus, has to somehow emerge and impose its structure on all the chaos around it. It's a flat-out fight between a force that wants to build and a force that wants to tear it all down.
So on one side of this battle, you've got the driving force, volume energy. See, as more atoms snap into that nice, ordered crystal structure, the whole system gets more stable, and it releases energy. The bigger the crystal gets, the more energy it releases, which creates this amazing feedback loop that just favors more growth. This is the force that wants to create that stable center.
But fighting against it is the resistance. We call it surface energy. And it's basically the massive, massive energy cost of just creating that initial boundary between order and chaos. For tiny, little baby crystals, this energy cost is just way too high, and they dissolve right back into the liquid. It's only if a nucleus can survive long enough to reach a critical size that the balance finally tips and order wins the battle.
Now, this battle between the center and its surroundings, it gets even more intense when we step into the world of life. Because here, defining a self isn't just about physics anymore, it's about survival.
Biologists have a perfect word for this: autopoiesis. It literally means self-creation. And what it means is that a living self, like a cell, isn't some static object. It's a dynamic process. It's a network of reactions that's constantly producing the very components that define it, including its own boundary. It literally builds and rebuilds its own walls, moment by moment, just to stay alive.
And in more complex life forms like us, this boundary is policed by a dedicated security force, the immune system. You can think of it like a team of molecular bouncers, constantly patrolling and checking IDs, and they're looking to make one crucial distinction. Are you self? Are you non-self? Friend or foe?
So how does this ID system actually work? Well, it's called the Major Histocompatibility Complex, or MHC. MHC Class 1 is kind of like an internal staff ID badge. Every single one of your cells is constantly showing bits of what it's making on the inside. If it's healthy, the T cells see self and just move on. But if it's infected with a virus, it shows a foreign piece and that cell is eliminated. Then you have MHC Class 2, which is all about reporting external threats. Specialized cells present pieces of invaders they've found outside, basically shouting, "Hey, sound the alarm." It's just an incredible system for enforcing the body's oneness.
So we've journeyed from the cosmos to a crystal to a cell. And now, for our final leap, we're arriving at the most mysterious center of all, the cognitive I, that sense of self-awareness that somehow emerges from the ridiculously complex network of our brains.
But how on earth can you even test for an inner sense of self? Well, one of the most famous ways is the mirror test. The setup is really simple. You discreetly mark an animal with a spot of paint, somewhere on its body it can't see directly, like its forehead. Then you show it a mirror. If the animal looks in the mirror and then touches the spot on its own body, not the reflection, it strongly suggests it recognizes that reflection as me. And the results are just fascinating. They completely shatter our expectations about intelligence. I mean, sure, primates pass, that makes sense. But so do pigs and magpies and even a tiny little fish called the cleaner wrasse. Meanwhile, the incredibly intelligent octopus fails. What this tells us is that this cognitive self isn't some one-time invention. It has emerged independently over and over again in completely different branches of the tree of life.
So there you have it. From the crushing gravity of a black hole to the membrane of a cell, all the way to the mind of a magpie. We've seen the exact same pattern play out again and again. A center forms, a boundary is drawn. It really does seem to be a universal blueprint for how complexity emerges from simplicity.
You know, this isn't even a new idea. Over 200 years ago, the poet and scientist Goethe had a name for this kind of deep pattern. He called it a typus, an invisible ordering law, a kind of blueprint from which all the specific forms we see in nature unfold. It's a really powerful way to think about what we've been exploring.
So what are the actual tools the universe uses to build these ones? Well, we can pretty much boil it down to 4 core mechanisms. First, there's boundary formation, literally drawing a line. Then there's feedback, which helps stabilize the center once it exists. You've also got symmetry breaking, which is when one ordered state is chosen out of all the infinite possibilities, like with a crystal. And finally, there's negation, defining a self by actively excluding the other, just like our immune system does.
And this brings us to one last thought that connects all of this grand cosmic story, right back to you. From the event horizon of a black hole to the membrane of a living cell, we've seen that the universe is constantly in the business of creating centers and drawing boundaries. That exact same pattern is happening within you, right now, in your body and in your mind. It's the fundamental process of creating a self. So the real question this principle leaves us with is this: in a universe that is always drawing lines, where do you choose to draw yours?